Devastating loss, and now LeBron is hurt. What a mess. Meanwhile, Tyreek, without their game breaker, are the Chiefs really still contenders in the tightest division in football history? We'll take you there. Plus, as the clock strikes midnight on Cinderella, we get a matchup for the ages in an unprecedented Final Four. All that and more as we get up with you on a Monday starting right now. I am back and better than ever. I am by myself, but by no means alone. Take a look at the squad we put together today. We're talking football. Orlovsky, Teddy Bruschi, Dominique is ready to go. And Tim Legler checking in on last-minute notes, trying to figure out how the Lakers are going to work their way into the playoffs after another devastating defeat last night. LeBron and the Lakers taking on the Pelicans, who they could easily see in the play-in. Now pick us up in the second quarter. Just keep an eye on LeBron here. Don't ignore the ball. Watch LeBron going down as he's battling Jackson Hayes for a rebound, and LeBron will roll the ankle. In fact, if you look at it closely, it looks pretty bad for LeBron, who would stay in the game, candidly still have a monster night. But it's a painful injury, and we'll talk more about it as we go. Meanwhile, we're later in the first quarter, and LeBron would go. Did I tell you he played well? He's knocking down threes from everywhere. There's one. Here's another showing you range. He made 6 threes in the first half. That ties his career high for any half in any game. LeBron had 25 at the break, and the Lakers were up by 20. All good, right? Wrong. Later in the third. Remember, the Lakers have been up by as many as 23. Now it's a 5-point game. Now here's Trey Murphy. Now it's a 3-point game. Murphy had 21. New Orleans down just 4 going to the fourth. Over 3 minutes to go now. Pelicans are up by 2. Brandon Ingram working in the post. How good is that kid? He had 26. New Orleans up by 4. 30 seconds to go. Pelicans. C.J. McCollum. Oh, it's a goaltend. LeBron goes up and gets it. Doesn't like the call. There's a lot of things for him not to like. LeBron James would score 39, but the Pelicans come all the way back to win. LeBron, what?
It feels like I mean, excuse my language, but that's what it feels like. You know, I came in with the mindset, understanding it was a playoff type, it was gonna be playoff type atmosphere, playoff implications and things of that nature. So, I knew that from the jump. We also got a lot of guys on our ball club that haven't played in playoff games as well. That plays a lot of big minutes for us. It feels like a wasted opportunity, obviously, for myself and for our team, and we weren't able to get it done.
All right, so Timmy Legler, so if I had told you before the year LeBron James is going to be averaging 30 points a game and his team would be in 10th place at the end of March and only a game away from falling out of the play-in, what would you have said to me?
Honestly, Greeny, if you asked me that exact question, my response would have been, LeBron James was averaging 30 points a game. I think of everything that you put into that statement, that's the most surprising thing because no player's ever done this. At 37 years old, to be averaging 30 points a game. He's the oldest guy by a mile to put up these kind of numbers at this age. So I would have said, well, what's going on with the Lakers if LeBron James has to be this dominant as a scorer? Because we know that's not really how he thinks. I know for a fact LeBron James would much rather average 16 points a game, and they're a 3 seed in the Western Conference. So to me, just by the mere fact that LeBron James is putting up these scoring numbers, if I didn't watch a single game all year and you told me that, I would have known this team is in deep trouble because you cannot put that kind of burden on a player at this stage of his career. So it's been shocking, and I think the biggest thing for me when I watch this team, Greeny, they just don't look like they really have a lot of fun. And this has been an absolute grind the entire season, and now it's slipping right through their fingers. And the possibility they could be home when the play-in actually starts. That, to me, completely unthinkable, a roster with LeBron, Russell Westbrook, and AD going into the season.
Yeah, and we can put, Cindy, we can put the remaining schedule up on the screen here if you want to take a look at it. I mentioned they're only 1 game clear, as we discussed, of San Antonio. So what do you think here? 2 weeks from the play-in, it's 2 weeks from this week, Tuesday and Wednesday is when those will be played. What do you expect to happen for them here when LeBron and company legs?
Well, Greeny, if you just looked at the schedule and saw those names of those teams, you'd say they have no shot, right? They don't have the tiebreaker with San Antonio. New Orleans has now passed them. But here's the thing. You don't know, looking at these teams right now, who is going to be playing as the season winds down. Because, look, a lot of these teams are involved in tight matchups for seeding and whatnot. Some teams just trying to get in. But at the same time, when you get into the last week of the season, there's a great possibility that some of these teams have their spot locked in, which means they might rest some stars. So it's really tough this time of year to just predict based on the name of the team that's an automatic loss for the Lakers. I think some of this is going to be determined by who is playing on those given nights, but it certainly doesn't look good. I think right now there's a better chance the Lakers are sitting home when this whole thing starts than there is that they advance out of the play-in.
Remarkable, and our analytics said the same thing a moment ago, right? So, like, stay close. Something happened in the NBA last night that had not happened all year long. We'll show you what that was a little bit later. But let me get my football guys in here because I've been away for a week and a lot has happened. So let's catch up on what some of these were, and let's make sure I know what it is that mattered here. So, Teddy Bruschi, I will start with you. Matt Ryan got traded to the Colts. What should I be thinking about that?
Well, you got to be thinking now, what can the Colts do with Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan's an aging quarterback that just started to show a little bit of a slip down there in Atlanta. Now he's got a great offensive line with a running back that can do special things. So just do smart things, hand the ball off, work the play action, let that defense that's so great at taking the football away, let them play too. Matt Ryan could be in a great situation.
Another interesting quarterback move. Dan Orlovsky, what about Deshaun Watson getting traded to Cleveland? What does that mean?
That the Cleveland Browns have a quarterback that can win them a Super Bowl now. He's as good as anybody in the NFL, and I think it's very similar to what the Los Angeles Rams decided or thought of when they were going to move on from Jared Goff. They needed to get better when the run game wasn't dominant. They needed to have a quarterback that could play drop-back football. And then on third down, can you go above the X's and O's? They have their answer in Deshaun Watson.
And then Dominique, the huge trade last week, the Chiefs trading Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. What's the number one thought there?
Yeah, I think if I'm a Chiefs fan, it's counterintuitive, but I'm excited, honestly. You don't get better by getting rid of Tyreek Hill, but I think it shows that your organization is smart and planning for the future because there's only so much you can do when you have your cap tied up in two players. And had they signed Tyreek Hill to the same contract, it'd be $75 million a year for Hill and Mahomes together. It's going to be real hard to win a championship that way. They've gotten some draft picks, which I think will set them up to find some discounts elsewhere.
All right, I want to hear what the rest of our crew has to say about that. But first, let's hear together what Andy Reid had to say about it. He is meeting with the media literally as we speak at the owners' meetings down in Florida. This is what he said about trading away Tyreek Hill.
We did try to sign Tyreek at a certain cost. Once it gets past that, now you can see what we're doing here with the players we brought in, and we feel they're very good football players. So we'll see. I mean, the end result is going to be what takes place during the season, but Brett's building this thing back to where we feel comfortable so that we can go win on Sundays.
All right, so that's what Andy said, and as always, I approve of his wardrobe. But I just want to make sure I'm clear, Dominica, what you just said. Did you just suggest that a Chiefs fan should be feeling optimistic and happy about their team trading away the most explosive individual player in the National Football League?
Yeah, I mean, they should be disappointed that they're losing Tyreek Hill, but in order to win in this league, you're going to have to find discounts, which normally happens in the draft. And they know that in order to get to hit on draft picks, you need several draft picks because you're not going to be able to be right every time. And honestly, you're probably wrong more times than you're right. So in order to build this thing long, I think the person you need to be talking to is Teddy Bruschi. He's the Patriots, the only team that have been able to kind of rebuild on the fly and put together dynasty after dynasty after dynasty. And they've done it by trading guys that were still productive, not trading guys after they're spent.
So, Teddy, how about that? The idea of moving on from a guy a year too early rather than a year too late. Is that what this is?
Yeah, absolutely. Nick is right. I mean, long term, it's a great move. You can't pay both of them. And I don't know about being excited about it. I don't know how many fans understand sort of salary cap implications and draft picks and how you parlay them into better players. But all they see now is one of the most explosive players gone. And I just think this offense is going to be different. Give me a Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster in a game plan meeting, and it's like, okay, we got this, guys. I mean, but if you have Tyreek Hill, you're walking into that as a defensive coordinator and defensive players like, okay, how do we deal with the biggest headache there is in the National Football League in Tyreek Hill? It's going to be different. So as you transition and you get new receivers and you get new draft picks in there, so can Patrick Mahomes be someone like a Tom Brady, which is Nick is talking about because he's comparing it to the Patriots here, that you can take whoever you put out there and I'm going to be able to do that. But here's something. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 26 plus 40 plus yard touchdowns in his career. 13 have gone to Tyreek Hill. And I would argue about 7 or so of those are because of Tyreek